You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana episode number 138. So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us. Hey, gorgeous. I hope that you are enjoying this beautiful week. By the time this recording comes to you, I should be in Italy. Guessing that we ended up in the Amalfi Coast. I don't know because I recorded this podcast before I left for vacation. Jack and I decided to wing it a little bit. So at the time of this recording, we are leaving tomorrow. We are getting on a plane going to Poland for a week. And after that, we don't have any firm plans, but we are planning on buying airline tickets and going to check out the Amalfi Coast if we can find a hotel. So I don't know if that happened or not. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I wanted to record this podcast episode because it's very vulnerable. There's a lot I expect of myself, and sometimes I expect too much myself. There are times when I feel like I've grown so much past infertility and past some of the chains that have felt like they were around my ankles and these shackles of infertility that had me believing that my life was always going to feel really constricted. So I want to share some stuff with you this week. I'm sharing it because I'm guessing if I'm feeling this way, you might be too. And you might need to hear some of the things that I have to say. But before I get into that, if you are not on my mailing list, you might not yet have heard that I am doing a free coaching class intended to help you if you have ever found yourself at a loss for words or stumbled over a response when somebody asks if you have children. So this free webinar class is going to help you figure out how do you respond to those types of questions? How can you support yourself a little bit more so that you don't feel like you always have to dodge a bullet when those questions come up? So it's going to happen on September the 10th at 6 p.m. Central Time. You have to register for it. So I'm going to put the link to register right here in the show notes. If you don't have access to the show notes for some reason, go on Instagram, lana.manikowski, send me a DM, or you can email me at hi@lanamanikowski.com. I will send you all the registration information. And if you're busy that day and can't make it, or you forget about the call for some reason, do not worry. If you are registered for the call, I will send you the replay so that you don't miss out on all of the gold that we are going to cover talking about things people say when you are childless. So let's get on with today's topic for this week. So this came about when I was working with my life coach. I work with a life coach. I find it to be so helpful for me and help me make sure that I am maximizing the freedom and the joy and the emotions that I sometimes feel, whether they're good or bad or indifferent, as a woman who's childless not by choice. So this came about a few days before I was getting ready to leave for vacation. I had a call with my coach and I told her that I was feeling really anxious about leaving because this is my first time going on vacation where I am not working in corporate America. Let me tell you a little bit about what my life was like when I worked in corporate America. I worked in the medical field. I worked in mostly in the operating room. So when patients were having surgery, we made devices that were implanted into patients. And so I would be there representing the product, helping the nurses get everything prepped before it got implanted in the patient, being a resource to the surgeon. So it was a very interactive type job. My schedule was not a 9 to 5 thing. That was one of the reasons why I decided to step away from my corporate job, because the type of schedule that I had that was very unpredictable was sometimes hard to manage and show up as the coach and the teacher that I desire to be to women like you who are childless after infertility. And it got to a point where I knew that coaching was something that I wanted to fully embrace and fully build out and create the support that women like us deserve when we leave fertility treatments and have that last visit with our reproductive endocrinologist and we are not offered any resources. I wanted to change that. That's why I'm a certified life coach. That's why I have spent the last almost 4 years working through and doing some of the things that I have been doing to support women like us who are childless, not by choice. All that to say, my corporate job was very demanding. There was never a time when I was married and Jack and I were a couple that I went on a vacation when I wasn't working in this job. There were many times that back in the day, before I became technologically savvy enough to keep my calendar on my phone, I used to have one of those notebook calendars. I remember going to the Middle East on vacation and packing my calendar. I would go to FedEx Kinko's and I would photocopy my calendar for the weeks while I was going to be gone, and then a few weeks after when I would return, so that if anyone called to schedule a surgery or I needed any information, it was at my fingertips. Jack used to get really annoyed. He's a business owner. He has been self-employed for a very long time. He works also in the medical field. So it's not like his job is any less important to mine, but there was something about my job that I just didn't have the ability to step away from. So I remember we were one time on vacation in Italy, and I was literally hiding in the bathroom talking to one of the nurses in the OR who had called me about a question so that Jack didn't know that I was working on vacation. Some could say that that was self induced. I could have figured out a way to have turned my phone off or allowed myself to be comfortable not answering my phone, but it's up for argument or discussion that that wasn't how I wanted to show up for my customers. So I felt like I was always on call 24/7. That's just how I was. Okay. So let me tell you how that plays into today. I was on a Zoom call with my coach. And when I told her I had some anxiousness about going away, it was uncovered through the beautiful work that she does. I mean, she's such an amazing coach for me. She helped me uncover that I had a lot of anxiousness about not working on a vacation. Most rational people would be like, wait, what? Like, how could you want to work on a vacation? But this is where it relates to being somebody who's childless after infertility. For a long time, my job was my identity. My job was my purpose. I remember meeting new people and people say, "Tell me about you." I always led with my job. That was where I got my validation. That was where I knew I was successful. That was the place that I felt like I owned that story. My job became a huge identifier of my worthiness. I know that this is not an isolated thing for me, and you might be feeling this too, because so many of the women that I work with in the Thrive After Infertility Mastermind, these are typical things that we uncover. These are such common things that women deal with when they're going through life after infertility. And I found myself feeling really anxious about going somewhere and not needing to work. I have the liberty now of being my own boss, of being a solopreneur, of deciding what gets done every day in my coaching practice and with the students that I work with. And I uncovered with my coach that I found a lot of worthiness by working. It gave me this place in the world. It made me feel like I was doing something because I always had this idea that if you relax and you're not doing something, you're lazy. People are loafers who aren't like jam packed with schedules all the time. And this is something that I have been trying to unpack severely. And I think that it goes back to that desire to be successful at what you do. And for so long, going through fertility treatments, hearing your description of where you are in your fertility journey, like being considered somebody who's a failed patient, I felt like I was always grabbing for things to be successful at because it really wore on me to be somebody who was thought of as a failure. For me, and maybe for you, it's working a lot. It's having these tangible results that you continue to give and check marks on a piece of paper or these accolades or emails from a manager or a colleague that recognize how hard you work and how much you do and how you stay overtime or you do things on the weekends when you don't necessarily need to do them. And you've gone there for your sense of acknowledgement and appreciation. I have done the same thing. And I want to acknowledge that is something that we do, but it's not something that we have to do. So my coach worked with me. We did some feelings work. One of the things I know when it comes to feelings is like, where am I feeling this in my body? If I'm feeling out of sorts, I can identify where in my body I'm feeling that and be able to describe it. And through the description of it, I create a relationship with that feeling. And so she had me talk through what was going on, and I was feeling so much tightness in my throat. And she had me start talking about what was giving me anxiety. And I uncovered that I just didn't know how to relax. I didn't know how to not do work on vacation. I also uncovered that I was a little bit nervous about not doing work and being only with my husband. And that sounds really cockamamie because I freaking love my husband. We have such a fun time together. We are like the best travel partners. There's no one else in the world I can imagine. We are going on an international trip in less than 24 hours and we don't even know where we're staying a week from now. We don't even have a hotel reservation, but I'm nervous. What if we don't have fun together? If I don't have something else to work on or think about other than enjoying our time together? And it was such an enlightening experience to be able to give myself that opportunity to recognize that that's what I've been going through and decide, is that how I want to spend my vacation? I don't have to not work. I don't have to work the whole time. I could do a little bit. I can do like a couple days of work. I talked through maybe doing that. I was like telling my coach, I was like, well, maybe I'll just allow myself to work 2 days during vacation, or maybe a couple hours a day, do a little something here or there. She asked me why I wanted to do that. And it was really amazing to see how attached we become to doing things and not allowing ourselves to relax because we think that we are doing something wrong, that we're not working hard enough, that we're not trying hard enough. And it becomes really heavy. And it gets to a point where you don't know how to fully enjoy life. And even though I've had slivers of it, and there's times when I fully enjoy life. Like, of course I do. My life has transformed so many ways, but I see how there's still opportunities for me to be aware of the things that are coming up for me and decide, is this who I want to move into this next chapter in my life be? And the answer is no. So by the end of the call, we decided I don't have to work. We did a checklist of all the things that I needed to get done for my business, i.e., recording my podcast. So that's my recording before I go on vacation, getting my emails preloaded. So those of you that get my love letters every Wednesday, my love letters will be in your inbox, that my podcast goes out on time. It feels so much better knowing those things are taken care of. I don't need to stress about those things. But what I did want to do was decide, okay, when I have some downtime, if I'm not going to work, what am I going to do? If you saw my post a couple weeks ago about my vision board, you might have seen in there, I have a book with like the pages kind of wrapped in that they like have a heart. I've really been wanting to read more. So I chose 2 books that I'm going to take with me. My goal is if I feel this urge to work, I'm going to read because that's something that is on my vision board. Working on vacation was not on my vision board. What was on my vision board was an airplane, was a beach, was relaxation, was a couple hugging. You have to go into my Instagram feed and look at my post. I think it came out like maybe on the 7th of August. There was nothing on there that showed someone on vacation working. So I decided to go to my vision board and decide, what do I want to do? If I don't want to work, what are some of the things that I pre-selected to do so that my brain doesn't go bonkers? Because that's what happens. We go into this panic mode and our brain goes bonkers because it's so used to thinking the same thing over and over, that working means worthiness, working means success, accomplishing things means that you have validity in this world. If that's something that you are looking to do more of, I totally get it. And I'd be happy to talk you through what that might look like. If you want to schedule a Thrive session, I don't know if I talk about this much, but I very happily give out an hour coaching session for free for women that want to just sit down and talk about some stuff. You can email me, text me, you can go on Instagram and DM me. But yeah, let's talk about this because none of us need to work when we go on vacation. All right. So I hope you had a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, wait, before you go, I forgot to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you've ever been in conversations and people feel compelled to ask if you have kids, or maybe they love telling you all the things that you should try to become a mom, it's called the Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless. I'll put a link to it here in the show notes, but you can also go to my website, lanamanikowski.com/things people say to get your free copy. I have a feeling you're going to love it.